It's the Improv Session Podcast. It's the Improv Session Podcast. It's the Improv Session Podcast. It's the Improv Session Podcast with Stephen Pearlstein.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Improv Obsession Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Pearlstein. Today on the show, very special guest, DiFonzo Marks.
Hello.
I've been calling you DDFM for a long time.
DDFM?
DDFM.
I usually hear DDM. I don't hear DDFM a lot.
I like that Fonzo so much
Okay.
that it deserves a letter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll take it.
That's what's been going on with me. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I feel like you asked me to do this like a year ago, and I was like, yes, and then I just never got back to it.
It was pretty much a year. Like, we
Yeah.
kind of talked about, like, we just kept on having bad mojo getting it together.
Yeah.
And then finally it's happening.
We're here,
People
man.
were excited about it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's going to be a good
cool.
one. So I understand today, you told me, 10-year anniversary of UCB.
Yeah, it's kind of random that today happens to be my 10 years since I took my 101.
Yeah.
It's weird. I think the weirder thing is that the fact that I know that date.
That's not weird.
But yeah, I basically 10 years ago took a 101 with a couple of buddies of mine from college.
Yeah.
And we did like a summer intensive kind of thing, and this is in the New York theater. And we went to New York and we did. The class system was very different back then. Like it basically is the equivalent now of taking levels 1 through 3 in 3 weeks. And we just like rented an apartment and like all slept on the floor in this tiny shitty hot room, and all we did every day was wake up, take class from like, I think it was something like 11 to 1 a break, 3 to 6 a break, all in the New York theater for like 3 solid weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Who was your teacher?
We had 3 teachers. My beginner teachers were Seth Morris, Julie Brister, and Ari Yakutis.
Okay.
And they were the first people that kind of.
Yeah.
I think Ari was actually the first guy I ever had because he was there on day 1.
Yeah.
So but those are the ones.
That's, I feel like, I don't know, just enterprising and ballsy. It'd just be like, I'm going to rent out an apartment with friends. Like, it's very cool.
I mean, we were in college and like, we were all doing improv, and we were on that kind of train of like trying to figure out how improv worked, and like, is this a thing we could actually do with our lives, or is this just a dumb hobby? And like, we got real into it real fast, and we like kamikazed into UCB.
That's great. Are those dudes still around or still kicking?
They're all still alive.
Well, I guess that's not. Yeah, are they all still doing improv?
Not really. I mean, I'm definitely the one like I believe like I left college being like, yeah, improv is a career thing I want to do, and everybody was like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all still around, but they're not. I wouldn't even say they're doing like comedy so much anymore.
Interesting. That's very cool. So, I mean, let's just talk about like. So it sounds like you were doing improv before in college. What was the whole deal with that? Was that all short form in college?
So I was on a short form, like I liked Whose Line Is It Anyway, just like everybody else.
Yes.
And I was on a short form team in high school called Children at Play. And we named it ourselves, and we thought it was hilarious.
Awesome.
And I think we actually took like a Children at Play sign from like around town and just like stole it and like brought it to our shows.
Yes.
And then I went to college, and I went to Emerson, just like everybody else in LA. And there were comedy troupes or comedy teams or sketch teams and improv teams that were just like formed, and you auditioned for them. And I got rejected by everybody. And I didn't do really any comedy or improv. And then my sophomore year, I got rejected by everybody. And I was like, now I really wanted it.
Yeah.
And I got into the improv team my junior year, but it took me 2 years of rejection. And basically, I remember the first rehearsal of that group, and that group was called This Is Pathetic, and they're still around. I remember I was the new guy, and all the people that had been on the team for years were having a fight, and it was, are we going to do short form shows or are we going to do long form shows? And I didn't know what long form was. I was
Right.
like, I don't know what that word means. And they eventually said, all right, we are now a long form team. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And they explained it to me, and it sounded so stupid.
Yeah.
And I was really resistant. I was
How
like,
is
no.
it supposed to be funny?
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to do a fucking play. And like they described a herald, and I was like, that sounds so boring. And I remember being like, I don't know, guys, I just want to play Party Quirks. Like, I think I said that. And then what happened was they were like, no, trust me, watch this. And we went to UCB New York, and the first show I ever saw was The Swarm. And they started the show, and I remember it was two guys came forward. I remember it was Billy Merritt and Andy Secunda. It was the first long form scene I ever saw. They come forward and they pull out chairs, and they just start doing a scene. And I remember thinking, like, this sucks. Like, no one's being crazy, no one's being wild, no one's being wacky. I'm straining to hear them a little bit because they're talking at a normal volume. I was like, this is so fucking stupid. And by the end of the show, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Yeah.
I totally was.
I was afraid that the narrative of this story would be like, I thought it sucks, and I've for some reason been doing improv all this time. I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Long form's stupid.
I'm a UCB teacher, but I like short form. No, not true at all. Yeah, I really got hooked into it real fast.
That's great. That's awesome. I like that you can still remember first two guys.
I remember because I hated it so much.
Yeah.
And then a tag out happened, and I didn't know what a tag out was.
Yeah.
But like I quickly got that it was like a new character, and I felt that was cheating. I was like, I remember turning to my friend. I went, "Can he do that? What the fuck is that? Can he do that?" And like I thought it was like against. What a fucking lame thing! You can edit in the middle. Well, no, what the fuck is this? Like I hated it.
Oh my god.
And by the end of the show, I was so much like that was smart and brilliant and real, and like I think the term we used was that show belongs in a museum. It was so fucking good.
That's great.
Yeah, and from there it was just I took more classes. I went shows. I think I went to see The Swarm like every night or every week for months, and I was living in Boston at the time. Like I took a bus. Like I was that fucking nerd that would wake up at like catch a 6 a.m. bus, go see it, and come back.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like everybody has like that. Hopefully, they like it enough, like that team that they just keep seeing over and over again. Like, how the hell are they doing this?
Yeah.
I remember kind of feeling the same way about the Smokes.
Sure.
I was like, especially because the first improv show I'd seen was Let's Do This.
Okay.
So like,
And that would be a mixed bagger of shows. Yeah.
But and then after so it was like a mixed bag show. Like we just went to that out of nowhere. I had never seen long form improv.
Oh.
And it was pretty good. It was fine. And then it was Derek Comedy before Shitty Jobs.
Right.
And then just Derek Comedy did like a set, and I was like, holy fuck.
Great.
That's crazy fast and amazing.
Yeah.
But then like I remember going to see the Smokes because Eugene was my first teacher, and going like, oh, this is different, and like. I don't remember, kind of thinking like, oh, this is a slow burn.
Yeah.
It took a minute, and then like all of a sudden things are coming together.
Yeah.
And incredible, and
I like that style of playing.
Yeah.
Like and the Smokes has Billy on it, and Billy was on the Swarm.
Yeah.
So like that's definitely kind of the same mentality going into it.
Absolutely.
And I bet a lot of people on the Smokes watch the Swarm. Because a lot of those guys are New York dudes. I bet a lot of them watch The Swarm as well. That's
Probably.
kind of a guess. I have no basis for what I just said.
I think no, that's probably fair. Like now Will Hines is on it, and he had said like the Swarm is his favorite team. I bet Billy just only lets people on who really like and respect the Swarm.
Yeah, as long as you like the Swarm, then
you're
well.
welcome.
By that logic, I should be on the Smokes.
Hey man,
I'll talk to Billy.
Talk to Billy. Like I think that could happen. That's awesome. So you're getting involved in class, like so. I also have trouble understanding this. So, like, basically the first class is, like, the first 3 levels for you. What does it look like after that, then? Like...
It was different, and like... I remember I walked in, basically like it was a 3-week class with a break in the middle, and the break was the Del Close Marathon.
Okay.
And so like I was taking my first long form class, and we'd only had like 5 classes, and then there was 3 days of me watching the DCM Marathon, which was just, you know, show after show after show. And I remember sitting in a seat and like one of the front rows, and I sat there for 13 solid hours.
Yeah.
And just watched stuff, and like I realized like 13 hours went by, and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? I'm a crazy person. I need to leave.
Yeah.
But I remember by the end of the 3 weeks, we were doing heralds, and like our grad show like was a herald, I think.
How do you feel about it? Was it good?
I don't remember.
All right, fair enough.
I'm sure it had, you know, ups and downs.
I'm not expecting it to be great, but I wonder if you felt good about it.
I don't. The main thing I remember is like I walked into that class super confident, and I walked out going like, oh, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And that's. I mean, one of the things I like so much about, and the reason I got into this is like, I was in college taking theater classes, and like I understood everything that I was learning in college, and I got it. But then when I watched like the Swarm or Herald or whatever, I'd be like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
And that's impressive, and I want to learn how to do that. And that seems harder than what I'm learning here. And so I was drawn to the challenge of it. And I really, really, really liked it.
That's great. Okay, so we're just gonna yada yada yada. Improv team. You got a Herald team eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I guess I want to skip over that a little. How did that? No, I was gonna, because I feel like that's standard fare. But then, how does that work? Because it's like, is there an indie scene at the time? Are you just in classes trying, and like then you audition for Heralds, and they're like, yeah, you could do this.
I was definitely improvising, and I'll say in New York there probably was an indie scene, but because I didn't live in New York, I definitely wasn't a part of it. I remember after I took my class with Mike Delaney in New York, somebody in class was like, hey, you should join our practice group, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And I never went. I totally was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I was like, wait, no, I can't. I can't take a trip to Boston or to New York twice a week. I would only do it once a week. But in LA, there was definitely no indie scene when I started out here, or when UCB opened up. There wasn't anything. I remember after I've been doing it for a little while, in like 05 or 06, when the theater first opened up, I used the Improv Resource Center website to try to organize a 12-hour improv festival in LA, like kind of what the LA Indie Fest is now.
Yeah.
Like a miniature version of it, and like there was no interest. Like there weren't enough teams, and I was like, any team can do this. I don't care. And like we couldn't do a 5-hour festival. Like there was just nobody there.
Wow.
And the established house teams at theaters were just like, why would we do this? Like this just sounds. What's the reason? It just didn't exist back then.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Wow. Wait, so was your first Herald team out here or in New
Here.
York? It was here. For some reason I thought it was New York.
No. I really
Cool.
just took my classes there.
Okay.
I'm very unusual in the sense of I got placed on a team, and that's been my only team.
Got
like
it.
a lot of people were like this to that, or like this Herald team threw
Yeah.
8 cuts and formations to that team to move it there. I've been on last day of school, and I've done other shows, but like I've never not been on that. It's pretty much been that one tank, and that's kind of an unusual thing for the route of teams to go. Yeah,
that is.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't know why. Yeah, I guess that's what confused me. Is like I knew that like you were a very like early UCBLA person.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thought of you as a UCBLA person, and then like I remember you saying like New York in 10 years, and I was like, oh, maybe it was like a New York person. Like
Although-
that transferred over, like a secret New York person.
A secret early New York
You know what
spy.
you are? You're one of the early people who like took classes in New York and then came out here to like get that sweet Herald money.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, that sweet Herald money.
Oh God.
I definitely identify myself as an LA improviser.
Fair enough.
If I have to.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
well,
do.
I do. I pick that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's hoodies with like gang colors on it.
Oh yeah, I don't own a hoodie. I
Ah.
don't own a hoodie. I should.
Just commit to your gang, man. Okay, so get on it. We get on a Herald team out here. It's last day of school.
Yep.
I don't know, like what's like the early challenge for Drew? Like, how is it? You hop on it. You're on a team, and like I feel like there's pressure. Everybody has pressure, and like things are trying to work through. Herald teams. It's like a new scene. Is anybody coming to your shows?
People were coming to our shows. Like, I remember our first show was sold out, and that was a big deal.
Okay.
I remember seeing shows at UCB before there was Herald Night, and it was often there were more people on stage than in the audience.
Oh no.
And again, I was that fucking dork that was going and watching these shows every week. I remember when I got on last day of school, I was really nervous because it seemed that people on the team already knew each other. Like, Heather Campbell and Jim Woods already knew each other. Neil Campbell and Paul Russ already knew each other, and I think they knew Nick Weiger too.
Yeah.
David Harris was kind of in the same spot where, like, we both didn't know anybody. Joanna Shockett and Mike Cohen were also on the team back then.
Yeah.
And they would all, like, Mike's been on a bunch of Herald teams his whole life, and like I think Joanna also maybe Joanna and David knew each other. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I felt like, oh, I'm the new kid. I'm the baby here, and I was very intimidated. But right away, and I believe this is actually a Heather Campbell, something she said, that it was so astonishing to me to so quickly like so many people. Like, I immediately was on the team and I was like, oh, everyone on this team is so funny to me. And like, there's no riffs and there wasn't any like, oh, we're funny but you suck. Like, there wasn't like I've been on teams where it's been like,
yeah, everybody's been on that team.
yeah, and like that's honestly the way it goes. And like,
yeah.
I was very like, we all immediately were just like, we all think each other's very funny, and I think those guys are so talented. I still do. Like, I'm still like Nick Weiger will still make me break every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very quickly be like, oh shit, I'm in awe of this. So it's great. I was very lucky.
That's great. Did you like? I guess I was like, did you feel like stepping on stage early Herald times that you were like, oh yeah, I can confidently do this 100% of the time? Like, I know that's a little weird of a question, but you know what I mean?
I get it. No, I definitely was like, fuck, I hope it's good. Like, it took a while to be not think, oh, this show could be bad.
Yeah.
Like and last we've definitely had bad shows.
Sure.
I remember our worst Herald ever was 17 minutes long, and it was awful, and it was one of the nights Besser came to watch.
Oh, yay.
And Besser came and watched us do a 17-minute Herald and just basically took us into the green room. Or no, it wasn't there. It was whatever that fucking dressing room is.
Yeah.
And just, like, ate us alive. And we deserved it. We deserved everything. And we really got a beating. But a well-deserved one.
Wow.
We also all took Besser's class. Like, we became a team, and then all were basically, as all 8 of us, were in Besser's class during our formation, which really helped a lot.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, practice and what. Okay. That's so funny. Yeah, I feel like that's whenever we have a sub in the class. Like, that's what'll happen. Is whenever there's a sub in class, that's the day you're at your worst.
Yep.
And your teacher, your sub is just like, what the fuck are you doing?
What is this?
Yeah, I was just saying the other day I had Morris come in. Like, we had been so good in class, and then just like Morris was like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you know, you're not doing any games ever. I'm so sorry.
That's great.
Yeah, real rough, fun stuff.
Great.
So let's talk a little bit about I don't know, like teaching.
Sure.
You're a teacher.
I am.
You've been doing that for
a while, years. God, 6, 7?
6,
I don't
7
know.
years.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. What do you teach?
What do I teach? I teach improv.
Are you 401 mostly?
I've taught every class,
yeah,
whether it be a 101 or advanced studies. The only thing I generally tend to not teach is 301. and I don't know, I think this is my schedule.
Yeah.
These days, I'm basically teaching beginning classes or the advanced classes.
Got it.
And I think early in the beginning you're teaching, and later you're kind of critiquing and giving more like, hey, this is what I see you doing, you need to change, versus teaching a baby bird how to fly. Like, yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, that's mainly what I'm doing right now.
Okay. So since I feel like everybody who listens to this is probably not in 101, let's talk a little bit about advanced and like teaching that. Like, it sounds like, yeah, you said, like critiquing. That's interesting, because it sounds like what you're saying is like, yeah, people get it. They know what they should be doing. Do you think that's true, or like if for an advanced, let's say? Like theoretically, I guess.
Theoretically, they should. Here's the thing. When the advanced study system came into place, it was you had to get approval beyond that point. But for anybody that had taken enough classes before that point, basically got grandfathered into advanced study.
Yeah.
So there are definitely people in advanced study that should not be in advanced study. And I don't think that's... I hope that's not a
been
shock.
for a long time.
That's been for a long time. And
like, you have to... Like, I think I'm almost at 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that 4 years ago we were still applying.
Yes. That system has not been revamped.
Yeah.
I know Johnny Meeks, who's running the school these days. We've talked a lot about this, that there is going to be a changing of the advanced study program. What it is, I don't know. So I don't know, like, what. I'm not hiding anything. I was like, yeah, we gotta. This system isn't perfect. We've got to fix it.
Interesting.
Because yeah, I'll teach sometimes advanced studies, and it's like, great, this is a group of advanced people, and I'll teach advanced studies where it's like, this isn't working out.
Yeah.
The notes I'm giving are not advanced notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess there's probably not a most common folly in like, oh, we're not ready for advanced. I feel like it's probably not, right? It's usually across the board.
It's really across the board. I mean, for me, what I look for putting someone into advanced study or not is obviously, do they not only get game, you have to get that obviously, but you have to be obviously good at it, but also the other stuff of like, can you act, can you support, can you do everything in a herald, like can you if you're the straight man in the scene, is your emotional reaction believable? Like, like, to me, the whole point of improv is like to make something up that doesn't look made up.
Yeah.
To really create that show that was like, I can't believe that was improvised. Everything looked like they planned it. I mean, like, and that's the compliment you want to get, is I don't believe you guys made that up.
Yeah.
And so if a student can just sell a performance, and I'm not even talking about like, man, they did that tag out that really heightened that game in a great way, like that's great and that's good, but to me it's a matter of like, you need to be able to act and get game.
Yeah.
Do both.
Interesting. I don't think I would have passed your 401. I don't really know. I'm trying to think. I'm like, you're saying that I'm really trying to remember what I was like in 401. I think I could probably, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, if everything just looks like improv, it just falls flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a thing that I feel like I took. I think it was a 401 I took with you. It sounds right.
It was either a 401 or an advanced study. I don't remember.
No. I think I took your last advanced before you went to Boom Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And I was right out of 401, and I remember it was a very good class, and I was like, I'm just out of 401, and
great.
I don't know if I can do improv. It was fun. Yeah, there was a bunch of good people in that. I remember that one.
Good.
It's very good. But yeah, then 401, and that was something that we talked about too. I think in both of them was like performance. You're very big on performance.
Yeah, I mean,
like I feel like I've been knocked about game. More, I think you're more likely to go like performance is the thing.
Yeah, and I mean I'm a theater nerd, but I believe that stuff matters, and like good improvisers are good actors, and I'm not saying you have to be able to, that should be your focus. Like, there definitely needs to be a game and a pattern and all that stuff within it, otherwise it's not funny. But the stuff in between needs to be done realistically. Like, you probably heard me say this in class. I want people to go to our theater and watch it and go, holy shit, that looked so good. I don't want them to go, oh, they teach patterns.
Yeah.
Like the game and the whole method that we do is the technique. If you go to a magic show and you see how he's doing all the tricks, it's not fun. It's just like, oh, I get it. That's how they did that. If it's everything is just so cranking out patterns without any sort of real performance to it, it just looks like a pattern.
Yeah.
And not a scene that has a pattern to it.
Okay, so let's then what? How do we most often create unsuccessful games patterns? Like, what's the thing that you feel like is what causes the issues?
I believe there's a couple of things, and this is something I see a lot. And you've probably done. Well, I've done. I'm sure you've done this too. You've been in a scene. You've been in a scene where the pattern is so clear, and everybody supports that pattern, and everybody tags that pattern, and that pattern goes up and up and up, and it never gets a laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah.
And it's because...
Were you at my Wednesday show?
No, I wasn't. Is that what that was? Yeah. I think people make the mistake of trying to out-heighten each other.
Yeah.
And so, like... I don't do any warm-ups in class that are like, name 10 things that are whatever, fucking 10 states that you like, name 10 states, because I feel like when you start thinking of like, oh, let me just crank out a bunch of things, then you start improvising like that, and it's like, oh, whatever, the game is he does this, and then it's immediately tagged to the next thing, immediately the next thing, and immediately the next thing, and there's no in-between moments. There's no, in Heighten and Explore, there's no exploring. And I think a lot of people are just going way too fast. My main note for students is to slow down and really do the scene for real. Like, an unusual thing in life, like if I'm walking to the supermarket and a homeless guy jumps out and says something crazy in my face and it's insane, I'm probably gonna tell that story for weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be immediately in that scene looking for the next weird thing. And because after we've let that flesh out for a while, then we'll get the pattern. Yeah, then we'll get the next move. But I feel like a lot of students are just trying to do as many moves in the scene as possible. They're like, yeah, I can heighten 9 times rather than I can act my way in a real scene.
I remember feeling that way and definitely doing that. But also, like, I'm trying to think of, like, why? Like, it was also, like, why did I do that so often?
I think it's... I didn't mean to cut you off.
Please.
I think it can be trying to make your teacher happy, to, like, show you get this and to stand out from everybody else.
Yeah.
I also think it's, and this is a bigger thing, I think with so much indie improv happening now, sets are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and people are doing, I mean, to me a 15-minute show is insanely short.
Yeah.
And now there's like 10-minute shows or 8-minute shows, and that's just fucking crazy. That's so little time.
I've had this conversation a few times. There's a couple shows that just have notoriously crazy long crazy short sets.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why? What's the point of even going to that show? Like, we could do it, like, it's stage time, but it's not. Like, we're not going to do anything. That's why I want to plug my new show, coming to the Clubhouse, Space Face. We're doing 20-minute sets for everybody. That's the deal. It's going to be great.
That's good.
Everybody misses doing long shows. That's all it was when I started.
Yeah, and it should be that. What makes me so... I get my feathers pretty ruffled about this, honestly. Yeah, ooh, his feathers are ruffled. Oh no. Is that, like, with indie shows, they're the venue. Like all the indie shows that are out there are great, and I fully support it. And the Clubhouse is fucking awesome. But the venue is making the art form change by going, well, we're not going to change. We need to change the art form. We'll make shorter art sets so people can do their show for 8 minutes. And it should be movie theaters don't get to dictate how long movies are.
Right.
you need to find a way to engage your audience and get more people there by making your show different, but still 30-minute sets, 20-minute sets.
Do we have to do 30? Did I not?
I want 30. I want everybody to have a half hour.
Drew, if you come to the show, you can do 30. Okay.
But yeah, and people are like, well, I remember talking with some people that run indie shows about this, and I was basically like, guys, you can't do this. Who the fuck am I to say that? I was like, guys, if you make your sets to 20 or to 15, then they're going to go to 10. And then the people that come up through the generation of thinking 10's the norm are going to go to 5. And then we're just going to get shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose. And this thing that we love is just going to become so watered down and broad. Improv won't be cool anymore.
Yeah. I feel like that's a fair assessment. Like I have a team, we do heralds. Can't do a herald ever.
No.
So we do like a kind of modified herald where we don't have an opening and it's all just based on a location.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, maybe that cuts us through an opening, but we still are never getting to like third beats.
No.
Because how the hell are you going to do that so fast?
I think indie improv needs to find a way to make it so it's supporting the art form. Right?
Yeah.
Well, indie improv obviously is supporting the art form, but I think we're diluting it by cutting it so short.
It's tough because, and also like just in that short period of time too, I want to say, I feel like I see more bad improv in a short period of time.
I agree.
Because I think it's that thing of like, you're more likely to sell out a scene, do a thing, blow, like just because we got to get out of it. We got to be done. We only have like 8 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like it's an 8-minute montage. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I remember hearing when I would bring this up, the main response was, well, if we go to 30-minute shows, then our wait list is a mile long, and somebody who submits a team can't get up, and we need to get everybody up. And this is me being kind of utilitarian about it, but I don't think you need to get everybody up.
No, you really don't.
I don't think...
Well, I think that's another thing, too, that happened in indie improv. I feel like I talked about this a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
But I remember when I first started doing indie improv, I had a team, and we practiced.
Yeah.
And that was the only team that ever went up. And then I remember going like, wow, a lot of people have a lot of teams going up.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta do more practice groups. And then when it clicked in my head, like people aren't practicing and just putting teams up.
Yeah.
Then it's that thing of like, oh, well, I just throw my name in with anybody. I'd love to play.
Everybody
Can't wait
does
to
that.
play.
Yeah.
And so you have this wait list a mile long, and this is something I've talked about with Marie because we're doing that space show.
Oh yeah.
She's like, we gotta get everybody up. I'm like, I don't think we do.
No, you don't.
I don't. Like I'd like to put up teams that clearly practice, that are clearly like somewhat level of like competent, or like I guess it's not like a judgment on like who's good or bad, but hopefully a thing of like I can do a show.
Yeah.
I can do a 20-minute show because we do shows.
Yeah. The argument I always hear back about that is, well, if I'm not doing shows, how do I get better?
Yeah.
And I don't think shows are the way to get better. I think they
Shows are tough.
don't hurt.
Yeah.
But like, I think you get better in the classroom.
Yeah.
And yes, you need to have some experience, and yes, you need to, dive into the deep end at some point and do it live. But if I have a student that's not a good improviser, I wouldn't go, you know what? People need to see this. That's not... If you watch a movie and there's an actor in it that's bad, and you're like, ugh, he should be in more movies, or more movies he'll get better. Like, no, man, go take a fucking class.
Yeah. I'm very guilty of this. I've done a number of shows of not good. Good. We're not good. We as a group are not good. And who cares? That's fine. We like to perform. This is the climate of improv. But you get very good at a particular thing, and that is being a shitty improviser but being funny. Like,
yes.
and I think I would argue I'm way more proficient at that than I am at doing good improv, and that like terrifies me. Like I've started cutting like a lot of teams, just like I don't want to perform anymore because I know I'm doing such shitty improv. Like I can call you out and I can make you look bad.
Yeah.
And, like, I'll get the audience on my side and like we'll laugh and we'll all have a good time. But I'm like, well, fuck, like. If anybody saw that show, like, it'd be embarrassing. Like, I'd see a teacher, and it'd be like, they'd be like, oh, yeah, fun show. And I could just tell, they're mad at me a little.
Fun show does not mean good show.
Fun show, and I know, and you know what sucks, though, is whenever I want to, like, give somebody a fake compliment, I still say fun show, and I'm like, they know.
They know.
They know.
And yeah, I mean, it's not hard for you and your friends to go on stage and have fun and get laughs. Like, what's hard and what I believe you should be doing is doing improv that's good work.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I go watch indie improv, it's either bad or fun and occasionally good.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of the talent level. I think it's a matter of people's goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people are like even the fact that a montage is a default form. Like, a montage should be a really cool thing that you should be like building. Like, a montage builds to something, not, oh, we didn't practice. Great, we'll all have 2 beers and just do whatever the fuck we want. Like, it's like, whoa, well, I remember hearing Amy Poehler, who I'd never taken a class with, but a friend of mine did, and she said the first thing Amy Poehler said in class was, the most important things in my life are long-form improv and my friends and family. And if your priorities are any different, you need to leave right now. And some lady was like, I gotta go, and like left, and everybody else stayed in that class. And like, yeah. And,
oh, that's very funny.
Yeah, and I mean, I really got taught into this. It's like, yeah, it's an honor to be on stage, and like, it's really something you have to take seriously, and improv gets such a bad rep of just being like, yeah, it's a lazy art form, and I think a lot of people are doing it lazily now.
I remember, when I started, had friends who just not at all in the improv community, just give me so much shit about improv.
Yeah.
And that's fair. Like, in a weird way, you have to admit, like, oh, what, you're not going to write anything? You're not going to, like, put time into, like, you have to admit there's a valid critique of improv.
I've gotten in screaming matches with people about that, and it's like, well, why not just write it? And like, hey, I'm not anti-sketch. I think that's great. I write sketch, I do sketch too, but to me, I find more fun if I can improvise a sketch.
Yeah.
And like, that to me is the fucking
But
goal.
if you're saying the venue is kind of changing the art, we collectively are lowering our art. Like, it's a lot harder to tell anybody confidently, like, hey, you should definitely come out to an indie show, Tuesday night at 11. Like, and I don't think there's one there, so I'm not actually trying to knock anybody. Just
No.
Yeah, but like, you should definitely come out. You're gonna watch a bunch of assholes kind of jerking each other off, and then like, all right, well, that was it. And like, hopefully, like, the last team is like some good vets, and you're like, hey, look at that.
There
was
was
good.
a thing, right? Yeah.
That's what we're doing, but kind of not.
And again, I don't think it's a matter of for anybody in indie improv that's listening to this. Don't think I'm saying you're not talented. I think it's a matter of I think the goals and the priorities are different.
Yeah.
It just feel like improv's got a rep of being lazy and easy and just it doesn't matter, and I think a lot of people are starting to do that more and more and more.
Yeah, you're kind of putting just by like having, I guess, more shows, don't practice, shorter sets, kind of less accountability for it.
Yeah.
You are kind of putting the lazy back into it.
Yeah, and I don't have the answer.
I don't think you do. It's
okay.
I mean, I'm telling you, this show, it's long shows. It's gonna change everything.
Well, good. I hope it does.
Well, I didn't expect this tangent, but I really enjoyed it.
Great.
I want to talk a little bit about acting. You're clearly
Please.
like a good performer, actor.
Thank you.
That's a thing that I struggle with. So, like, how do you act?
I'll be honest. Like, other than acting in sketch and improv, I haven't done any acting in a while. Like, I did a play a couple of years ago, and I felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and I felt really awkward.
Really?
I felt really bad. And the play was super weird, and I got bad, and honestly, I don't think the director knew what they were doing. So there were other factors going into it, but I was like, shit, man, if I'm not acting around a funny idea, I kind of forgot how to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just a matter of,
I feel like I did a play a couple years ago, too.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've done a few in high school and stuff, never really considered myself much of an actor, but I still did them. And it was that thing of, like, literally all I ever got, like, the only thing I could ever do was just, like, stare at the person more and, like, try to believe it more, which is, like, the dumbest thing, because it's And so, like, a lot of, like, I feel like acting method is finding a way into believability and showing
Yeah.
it. And all I'm sitting there and do is, like, I don't know, just believe this more.
Just believe it more.
Can you do that?
Believe harder.
Can you believe harder? I don't know. I feel like I'm a great actor, is what I'm saying.
I know, like I guess for me it's the big thing is indicating. And indicating is like, I'm gonna do something to show you that I'm mad. And so if I'm trying to play a mad character, I'll bang my fist or punch my hand or whatever the fuck that is. And it's like nobody does that.
Yeah.
And so it's like clearly a choice rather than an actual real moment.
Yeah.
And so like I remember like when I was it's like, well, what can I do to look sad? And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you actually just listen and react, and in the moment, your behavior will be sad, your behavior will be angry or whatever. And if you choose to make like, well, then I throw the chair, and it's like, well, it looks like a choice of someone unrealistically does a move rather than just settling in that moment. This is not great acting advice, by the way.
No, it's okay. I think that's something we can talk. We can kind of just expand a little bit on that. I think that's the thing you probably recognize regularly in improv is stating your emotions, stating your feeling, rather than doing it. I feel like that's very common, especially straight men.
Yeah.
Straight men are. I don't know. I feel like a lot are like, I am so mad at you. You're being incredibly unreasonable. Can you tell how mad I am?
Yeah, and like that's.
No, you can't.
When I'm arguing in real life, I don't think I say, I'm so mad at you.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, but it just comes out through your behavior, and it all just ties into playing it real, like just creating a normal base reality for your scenes. People standing around loving their lunch break don't go, man, I love this lunch break. Like, it's just so
such a fun lunch break.
Yeah. It's just a matter of indicating and like just stating what you're doing. It just comes a grounded base reality with following the rules of show don't tell, and
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm over here.
Oh, did I almost kill your dog? I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. He's very good at getting stepped on
Oh.
and tangled up. He's good at it. He's like a pro.
There's a dog here, by the way.
This is not really weird space.
Yeah.
The show don't tell. The show don't tell. And I wonder if part of that comes too from just sinking into a tone, maybe at the top of the scene. Tone. I feel like, and I always use this example because I feel like Eugene does this a lot. Cordera, he'll start like kind of like a goofy scene, like like that energy.
Yeah.
And that's a tone that like I can believe, or like I can see where this is going, and when stuff breaks from that, it's like you get the same thing. But also you can see a real tone from Eugene too, and any plot. But you see it, and you're like, oh, we live in this. And then when things start to go away, emotionally the tone stays the same. Like if you're, I believe, I guess like a roundabout way of saying, like, I believe I could see a scene start where it's like, hello, dear, thank you for coming home to dinner. And it's like, oh, we're getting into some kind of like faux TV 50s reality.
Yeah.
And if these emotions come off different in that, then I can see how this is possible.
Yeah. I'm not, although I'm such a struggler for grounded playing at real performance, playing it real.
You're saying you don't like Eugene Cordera?
No, not at all.
Do you want to get that on the record?
Yeah, no, I love
Eugene.
And this is something I say to my students: playing it real doesn't mean realism. So not every scene has to be. You can play characters, and you can have a magical genie in a scene, or we can do a scene where we start off, and that is our if I'm Snow White and a bird comes down and talks to me, that's not weird. There's no unusual yet.
Yeah.
Whether it's the tone or the idea, it's like, well, what is your base reality? The way it was taught to me was, if a monster walks into the room, is it unusual? And I went, yeah, of course. And they're like, well, not in the movie Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
That's just the character. And you're like, oh, I guess, yeah, what is the normal there? In the normal, I'm a big furry dude and you have one giant eyeball. That's the normal there. So yeah, like if someone starts in that reality and I deny that tone or I deny that normal reality, then it's already weird. It's already fallen apart.
That's got to go to speed, probably, right? Like if you're missing those things, or we're playing against our reality, or we're writing things off as not unusual when they clearly are. I feel like that's got to just go back to doing it too fast.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe some people are just trying to be funny right from the get-go.
Yeah.
I always, like, to me it matters of, like, well, what do you, if you're coming out of an opening, at least we built up this idea and the audience was with us. Like, if you're going to start in a reality that isn't two grounded human beings, in realism, if it was in the opening, okay, like, at least the audience is in on that joke. But if you just get a word and are like, I'm going to start in this big wacky move, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's harder. It's just, if anything, it's like, well, we don't have an opening, we don't have any ideas yet, all we have is a word. Let's make this easy on ourselves and just go as normal as possible, and so the game that we get, everybody will be in on that joke altogether, rather than kind of like starting with an odd curveball of an idea.
Yeah.
I see people do this a lot, where it's someone will initiate a scene, and out of no opening, let us initiate organically, and then player number 2 will make a super strong character choice, and then it's basically about that character. And that's not bad, but I felt like that player number 2 would have done that choice no matter what player 1 said. And that I see that happening a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey man, great to make strong choices, and it's great to add stuff, especially at the beginning of a scene.
Yeah.
But if your second move's unusual, we have no choice but to follow that, and usually it leads to an unsatisfying game.
That's tough because you talk about. I feel the same way. And I feel like especially whenever somebody makes a big character choice, like I feel like that first time they do that first line, I spend a lot of time like, did you just do something unusual? Because did you break, like, so if you come at me as like a grizzled cop or something, and I gave you a very normal initiation, is it a comically grizzled cop, or can I believe this is a thing, or did you say something that kind of is at clash with what I guess what I'm saying is, like, because ideally, if somebody does something like that, I don't necessarily want to treat them as unusual. I don't want to go, oh, that's the unusual thing, because it just might not be. It might be people's performance.
Yeah.
But if it only takes a little bit to, like, really go, like, oh, no, you're, like, if we're talking about a base reality and that there's not a lot set out, too, it's like you're diverting from it. Like, you're going to be unusual, whether you know it or not.
I think it's definitely case by case, but like, if I give you something, I initiate, and I, in my initiation, ask you to play a character, if I call you grandma or something like that,
right,
and you make a choice off of that, you're honoring my idea. You are yes-ending. But I feel if I set up kind of a neutral, grounded real world, and your first choice is a big weird character, you're not yes-ending me. You're kind of yes-oring. You're going, yeah, I hear your idea, but wouldn't this be funny? Yeah. And it's like, well, I guess we have to. Maybe. Yeah. Or just, why don't you... I'd rather, like, build it with the other person in the beginning.
It's, and again, maybe this just comes to, like, doing it short or whatever, but it doesn't... I watched The Smokes last night. Watched a lot of teams. Look how long they'll go or start scenes without getting a laugh, and just kind of, like, being on the same page. And you're like, fuck. Yeah. And it doesn't. I'm never mad about it. I'm never mad about it. No. Because you can pay it. You can always.
It always pays off.
You can. Yeah. If you're doing it right, you can do it.
I remember when I would be watching The Swarm, growing up in my improv life, they would have those long, patient starts, and every time it happened, I'd be like, tonight's the night. Tonight's the night they fucked up. I'm so glad I'm here for the show that got no laughs. And I was always wrong. It would always pay off, and it would always be like, oh my god, they fooled me. Everything they were doing from the beginning was intentional. Yeah. And it was just that kind of patient play. I do think there's a difference between patient play and just meandering boring, which I feel a lot of people are like...
We could talk about meandering boring.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
Yeah. Craig Kukowski, who's fucking amazing.
He's meandering and boring? You want to get that on record?
No, Craig is phenomenal. I remember he was teaching me once at I.O., and he said, because he was harping on playing it real, and like after we quote unquote played it real for a while, he goes, Yeah, guys, I didn't say play it boring. I said play it real. Like, you still have to make comic choices. We still have to make moves. We still have to do things that break away from a base reality to make it funny.
Right.
But then it's a matter of do that funny thing realistically, react to that funny thing realistically. Not just go, I'm playing it real, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, that baffles me. I see a lot of people struggle with that.
Craig's great. Because, yeah, that is a dude. I was talking a little bit about this yesterday. Not focused on game necessarily. Doesn't, in fact, know basis in game. That was not a thing when he was learning, right?
Yeah, he comes from a different background.
So, but like still funny. So how does that happen? It's like, oh well, you perform, do base reality, and then make comic choices and play them out. I think that's all it comes down to.
I don't know. Yeah.
In his world, I mean, in his world, not our world.
I don't know.
Our world's terrible, and terrifying, and I love it, and I can't quit.
I don't know, like I watched, like I think Dasariski's fucking phenomenal, and those guys are great. I think it's great because they're at least on their page, and it has funny moments to it. I've seen shows that are basically like a great IO player and a great UCB player and a great Groundlings player and a great blah blah blah, and you put them all together. That show's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Like, that show is awful. I've seen that show. I've been in that show. It never works.
Yeah.
It's they're just not on the same page.
I did. And so I don't know. You know what Reddit is? Reddit.
Yeah.
So there's a subreddit called Our Improv, and it's people talk about improv, and it's dumb.
Okay.
It's like the worst.
Great.
So they put on an improv show at the Del Close Marathon, and they're like, who wants to do it? And I was like, well, I'll do that. That sounds fun. And it's interesting because there's like there's somebody from both the Carolinas and like a New York like Pitt person and like a New York UCB person and me, UCBTLA. And it was a very big hodgepodge. Yeah. And I remember like several times going like we met up before and did practice and we did the show. And I was like, is this what you think improv is?
Yeah.
Because it's not, like, and I'm sure they, like, see some shit that I do, and they're like, is this what this dude thinks improv is?
Yeah, what are you doing, man?
Because that's not it.
Of all the different schools, and I've trained at every improv school, Groundlings is the only place I've not trained.
Me too.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's the only one I missed out on.
It's the only one I've not done.
One day.
One day.
For me, I have a very dumb story. I signed up for their audition.
Yeah.
I was 1 minute late, and I just come from donating blood. And I like walked in and I was like, hey, which room do I go into? And the guy looks at the thing and like he goes, sorry, you're late. You can't go in. I'm like, really? I just came from donating blood and like, you know, they're just warming up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And he goes, sorry, can't do it. If you want to take it a little bit more serious next time, I can look for another spot for you. And I just went,
man.
I'm such an asshole. I just turned. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't even care. And I just left. I'm like, well, he has no clue who I am. But I was just so like, they haven't even gotten to Zop yet. I'm sure of it. They have not got there. Ugh, that's heartbreaking.
That sucks.
Yeah, this was just a couple months ago too. It still hurts.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, take it seriously.
Don't be a
dick.
More seriously. Like, all right, well.
But through, I don't remember exactly where I was going, but through taking classes everywhere, like, I definitely found things valuable at every school.
For sure.
But I definitely found that UCB's approach, I mean, like, kind of like the thing Besser laid out, and Besser's been my main teacher. I've taken 8 fucking classes with the man.
Damn.
I believe that approach to be the funniest approach, and to be the one that's like, here is the setup way to do a comedy show.
What's that approach?
Break
it down for me.
Game. I mean, just hey, man, just base reality, one unusual thing, explore. If this, then what? Like that process that we all know. I find that to be the simplest and funniest way to do improv, and I've taken other classes, and it's more about like capturing the magic, and it's like I don't know what that means. It's not as pragmatic and it's not as detailed, and I think what he's done is it's just I find it to be the most efficient, funniest way to do it.
Feel like a lot of I did some improv that was like just yes everything, go with everything, and then I remember at a certain point, like, that is helpful in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's helpful in a way, but it's also, and then I remember at a certain point the coach going like, now do something funny.
I want to give that note in class.
And I was like, yeah, I can yes and these things all day if we're not like focused. I guess it does. I think maybe UCB focuses more clearly around a thing that is funny, or like finding that thing and like parsing it apart.
I mean, yeah, it's you yes end until you find a game, and once you're in the game, you just play the game and you play with that. You don't need to be yes ending beyond that. I remember being in a class with Besser, and I think there were a lot of people in that class, and this was like an early LA class, and there were a lot of Chicago improvisers in that room, and only like I would say like it was half UCB and half IO Chicago people that hadn't really taken any UCB classes.
Okay.
And they would just yes and past games, or be in a game and yes and away from it, and just like add on unnecessary information that was so distracting. And I remember he goes something like, "You guys have yes and sickness," and it was like, "You guys got to stop yes ending." And to some people, like, what? That's all what improv is you always got to yes end your partner. And it's like, no, you yes end their ideas in the beginning to get to something funny, and then you yes and the way they want to play that game, but it's not arbitrary details.
You can yes and so long that it gets silly or just off. Like that's I think that's the thing that you get from yes and just continuously is silly funny.
Yeah. It's just whoa, I get
How
this
do we get
now?
there? I mean,
yeah.
I guess it all kind of tracks, but what?
Yeah, and it takes away from like if you were watching a sketch that just continuously added on new things, it would just, you wouldn't know what to laugh at.
Yeah.
If you watched it on TV, you'd be like, this is just crazy rather than funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fucking, yes and's a great necessary tool, but only shouldn't be used all the time.
I like it.
I feel like that blows some people's minds.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like so talking about improv as in this, like, even in the format of this podcast, I think is like so not that valuable. And I still do it. But
let's talk about other shit.
Now let's talk about fucking dogs. But I will say though, for all the that everything is out there and that y'all kind of know this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's weird how often people will have like just total revelations of like, oh my fucking god, you stop yes anding at one point or like whatever. This is gonna blow like 100 people's minds who are like in the community. They're in advance. They like know this. They know it. Yeah. But they'll just like whatever, and it happens to me all the time too. So I guess what I'm saying is like that's okay. Yeah. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, this is an art form, and you're constantly going to be learning. And like, I honestly like wish I could take an improv class. Like, I'd love to take. Like, I've performed with Eugene a bunch. Yeah. Well, not a bunch, a couple of times. But like, I know I would benefit if I took Eugene's class, or like, I know I'd benefit if I took Alex Berg's, one of my best friends, and like, if I took his class, I'm sure I'd get something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's good to be learning. You go through phases, like I know like I'll be in a phase where it's like, man, my walk-ons are great, my initiations suck. Yeah. And it's like, well, hey, 6 months later, it's different.
Yeah. I would just refuse to initiate for like almost a year. It was the worst. I don't know what happened. Like I was just like, I'm not doing anything right. I thought I could initiate. I used to be very good at it. I don't know what's happened.
I had to give myself this note in last day of school shows where I was basically, this is a visual, so it's really going to suck for everybody listening at home. But basically, every scene I initiated, I would just come off the back line, not really have an idea, and just kind of like give up, and then grab a chair and pull it out, and then just sit down, and then go, so here's an unusual value. And it's like, that's a bad way to improvise. That's just like giving up and be like, let's just arbitrarily do this idea.
You go for it.
Yeah, and that's not what to do. And I was like, all right, I'm just getting lazy, and I had to give myself that note.
I'm trying to think of like what's the thing that I'm not liking about my improv these days, and I was gonna get you to solve it and
do something funny.
Do something funny.
That's such a fucking great note.
It was great because I think he like, and I also I'd already kind of been through UCB, and I was a little bit I push back way too much when I like don't agree with teachers. It's the worst. But I was a little bit like, we're like just work the way you're kind of doing it. Like, I'd love to just focus on game for like 1 week or whatever. And he's like, I'm telling you, yes and is the thing. And I was kind of being a dick. I'm like, I'll yes and this all day, and I'll show you that we will not be funny. And that's what I was going for.
That's crazy.
I was being a real monster.
That's crazy.
I'm a terrible person.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
I remember, as far as like something Walsh told me, that was, you'll get notes in improv from people you know you're funnier than. And the thing you need to do is just take the note.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if you disagree, just take the note. I remember at Boom Chicago, I got a note once, and I disagreed with the note so hard.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything, and I just took the note, and I was like, you know what? I know I'm right. And they were saying what you were doing. It was basically like what you were doing wasn't getting laughs, and you were denying your partner. And I was like, I wasn't denying. I was straight manning.
Yeah.
And at Boom, every performance is recorded. And so if you want, you can ask the tech booth for a DVD of any show. Like,
Yeah.
I think they like get rid of them after a while.
Yeah.
But I went to the tech booth. I was like, guys, can I have a recording of last night's show? And I went home and I watched the DVD and I watched the tape, and I was right. I was absolutely right, and I was doing a good job. And again, I'm watching myself, so I'm probably rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah.
But I was just listening for laughs in the audience. Like, I was getting solid laughs throughout that idea. If anything, not more laughs on this just crazy thing.
Yeah.
And I took the DVD, and I was like, I'm going to go show them I was right. I was like, no, that's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
I threw the DVD away, never brought it up. And it was just a matter of like, all right, I'll just take the note.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm never suggesting doing anything like that.
No.
I'm just a real monster. I'm a real rough, terrible person. I totally forgot that part of why we've talked about doing this was like you just come back from Boom, and I was interested in talking about it.
Sure.
I'm gonna just throw it all away. We don't need to do that. We're close to the time over anyway.
See ya.
Kind of wrap this up with first of all, is there anything that you feel like you want to cover or share with the world as far as your improv wisdom? You're a very good teacher. I very much enjoyed having you. Both times. The first time spending most of it going like, whoa, we're doing, like, I remember, that's the thing that we talked about in that class I really liked. You're like, you should be sweaty after the opening. And you said that like 19 times, and we were. I remember it was like the middle of summer, and we fucking were.
Was it an organic opening?
Yeah, we're doing organic, like, no, it was like your, like, vignettes thing. Do you remember that? Or no, wait. Yeah, this is right. Where you do, like,
what class was this?
This was an advanced.
Advanced.
It was like Scott Davis and Leland. I think Moses was in it.
Oh yeah, I remember that class. Yeah.
And I think you were basically like you do our tableaus, or maybe that's what she called it. And like we build up a scene around like a silent type of looking thing, and then we'd follow something.
Yes.
Somebody's like one physical motion, kind of like organic that out, and then stay in like whatever.
That's the opening last day of school. We did it as a Herald team.
Yeah. Okay.
We called it environment building, which is so fucking weird because it's not. It's not an organic opening because we know it has a structure to it.
Yeah.
I don't want my preach to be be sweating.
Don't do no. But I'll say that I think the sentiment behind that I tried to take away from it. More than anything was just like commit and get in stuff like hard.
Yeah.
Like just be in, and that was the best note one of the best notes I ever got. And that was from you. And that was it was something, I think it was something to the effect, I want to get it right, but of like, if your teammate is out there eating a shit sandwich, you go out there and eat some of that shit sandwich too. But I remember, I think that was like the sentiment, kind of the same thing behind that opening. Like, get into it, just get into it and commit to it, do more, like don't be guarded, don't be halfway.
Yeah.
And I took that 401 with you. It was like kind of a similar note. You're like, go in there all the way, do it.
Yeah, you have to do it. There's so little. A half-hour show is very short. Let's do it now. You hear that? A half-hour show is short. I think I actually stole that dog shit note. I think that's actually a Jim Woods phrase.
It's from somebody. Yeah, I remember it vaguely.
Yeah, I think Jim Woods says that. I remember doing that play that I was in.
Yeah.
I felt weird about. I remember doing an act one, just kind of went weird, and I was backstage with another guy in the show, a dear friend of mine, and I said, "Oh," and this is kind of gross, but I said like, "Oh, it just feels awful out there. I feel like I'm just sucking dick out there," and he goes, "Well, in Act 2, let's use both hands and make it come." And I was just like, "Oh, okay, man." And it's just like we doubled down, and then
we will.
Yeah.
That is. That's, I don't know. I feel like that's not a terrible. It's a good mentality to just
Yeah.
go like in it with the idea of like, yeah, you know, I don't know. There's something there. We didn't get here accidentally. And
Yeah.
It's hard. It's harder to. How about it? Like if you're off to like a rough start or something the audience isn't connecting with or whatever, I think it's harder to make good of that after running away from it.
Yeah,
it's very hard. Like it's changing your choice. Then it's like you kind of lose your base reality. You lose a lot just like going away from it. You're like, well, fuck.
Some of my favorite scenes I've ever been in started as the worst scenes I've ever been in.
Yeah.
And it was just a matter of like everybody was like, "All right, we gotta really commit."
I think this might have been. Oh yeah, one of my proudest scenes was with Marie, and we just sucked. We just weren't connecting, and I was like, I was like, fuck, no, I'm not gonna. I was just like, I'm gonna stay in this and make it work. And it took us like a minute and a half, and like to fully communicate what was happening,
There you go,
and the reality,
Yeah.
and then whatever. And then we had like the thing, and that scene took off. It was really, really good, and I was like, I remember, or it wasn't even really, really good. It was good.
Great.
And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. I can be in a shitty scene and make it not shitty anymore.
Yeah.
That's a real moment.
And that's like the great thing is if you are doing a shitty scene, generally, you know, usually you've got 5 people behind you to help you. And so like I no longer, if I'm in a scene and I'm a minute deep and I'm well aware like, hey, we have not found it yet, there's no more hitting of the panic button. Like there's no more panic moves just because I trust the people behind me to make this look good.
Yeah. I think that was also a note. I remember, maybe not. Maybe I made this up. Maybe attributed it to you.
Okay.
But I mean, it was like the same type of thing of like, if something isn't working or whatever, look to pay it off later. Like I remember you saying that of like, if this scene just sucks and you like mercy edit it or something like that, just look for an opportunity to pay it off later.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was you or not.
It sounds like something I would say. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't recall saying that, but hey, I'll take it.
Cool. Well, there's a weird thing that was for you. Okay. Yeah. So does that sound like a thing that you maybe want to
I guess
get out there, get in your thing?
My main thing for improvisers would be this, because this is a note I'm constantly giving. A lot of times people, a clear, funny thing will be out there, and instead of playing it, people just stand around and pitch on what it could be. And if like we were in a writer's room and we came up with this funny idea and everybody's throwing out ideas, we would write them all on the board as all legitimately funny ideas. But then when it came time to doing the script, we would pick 2 of those ideas, maybe 3 of those ideas, and put in the dialogue and put in the reactions and put in the performance and the believability. And a lot of times people find that funny thing and then just stand around and are all like clever with the idea and just go, well, here are the 10 ways that game could go, rather than picking one and doing it.
Yeah.
It's like if, and I think I've said this in class too, but like, it's like if we all went to go play kickball in the park, and I had the ball, and we chose our teams, and I had the ball, and you're up to plate, and instead of throwing the ball, it's actually like, hey, if I threw the ball to you, and you hit it over there, you would then run over there, and either you'd get out or not. And it's like, well, great, cool, who's next? Like,
I think I would get out. Next.
Yeah, exactly. It's you have to play the game, not pitch the game.
Interesting. I like it. It's really great.
Cool.
All right, last bit. Pearls of Wisdom, classic segment on the show. I always like saying it's a classic segment on the show. I haven't done one in so long. I'm excited to say it.
Classic.
It's a classic segment on the show. Pearl of Wisdom. Note, advice, feedback you got that kind of stuck with you. Something that was impactful, maybe that you still say. I don't know.
Notes that I got.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, hopefully.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
And then every now and then somebody will be like, I never remembered a single note.
Oh, no, I remember all my notes. Not all of them, but I would say there's 2 that stand out to me. One was something Besser did with me a lot. I had a bad habit of interrupting people. Basically, if I would cut off my scene partners before they were finished talking, and Bester really got on my ass about it. And it came down to the point where he's like, "Why are you doing this, man? Like, why the fuck do you keep cutting people off?" And my honest answer was, "I think my ideas are funnier than their ideas." And I was like, "That's the real truth of what's happening here."
Oh, no.
And he came up with this rule that I had to follow in class, which was, if I ever cut someone off, no matter what was happening, I had to go sit down. I couldn't do the scene anymore, or whatever show. I had to go sit. And I sat, I don't know, I want to say like 10 times.
Wow.
10 times I like, nope, all right, I'm out. Like, I would cut someone off, and it really, like, and he got on me because it's like, if you're doing that, you're coming from a place of ego, and you're also not listening, and you can't, it's just like an argument. Like, if people are screaming over each other, they're not actually hearing the other one.
True, I do this all the time.
Uh-huh.
I constantly, I'm like, I've gotten pretty good at, like, not, but what drives me crazy if somebody goes on for a while, I'm like, I know I have a funny response or a good response to this. Please stop talking. Is how and then you'll go past it and you're like, well, I can't say it now.
Yeah, well,
I know I can't say it now.
It's okay to have that great thing in your head.
It hurts
and
my heart.
Yeah, but if you have that great idea and it doesn't happen, I think it's better to play with what's actually happening. And your great idea, go home and write. Go home and write that scene.
You're right.
The other note that I remember that really resonated with me was from Mike Delaney, who was an amazing teacher. He gave this analogy of a casino, and the idea is that the audience is the audience, or the performance, the improv of it is basically the house, and the suggestion are the cards, and so you get dealt these cards. I know, I'm probably butchering this analogy, by the way.
It's already a lot to take in.
Yeah. Say the audience is the house, the suggestion are the cards, and you get dealt these cards, and you're a player at the table as well.
Yeah.
Instead of me looking at my cards, and you look secretly, so you can't see what I have, and you looking at your cards secretly, and you and I strategizing how to beat each other, it should be, you get the suggestion, you get the idea, and then you and I both just show our cards to each other and try to take down these guys. And try to take down the house rather than just pick each other apart.
Interesting.
That doesn't mean every scene has to be like brotherly love, but it's just a matter of you and I are in this together. You and I are going to work together to come up with an idea that is going to be funny for the world around us, rather than I'm going to nail you to a wall, you're just going to pick me apart. It's not. It's easy to destroy, it's hard to create, and it's just embedding it. Games based off of creation are usually a lot more funny, that you build with the other person. That's why it's fun.
I love it. That's a thing. I'll also, like I say, just too, in that doing the short sets or whatever, it's a lot easier to go like against and just whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
it's easier.
I think he also said the same note of, if you're ever a blank occupation in a scene, just be the best at it. Just don't be the bad doctor. Don't be the bad ballerina. Just be a great ballerina, and now let's find a fucking game worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of like, oh, I can't quite do this right.
Yeah, it's my first day.
Why aren't you doing this right?
Yeah, I think he said, it's no one's first day at their job in my class, and everyone's good at their occupations, and no one plays kids. Let's go. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm in.
I love that. That's a great way to start class.
Yeah.
Like, I'm setting a tone.
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Drew. Well, DDFM, do you have any plugs or things that you want to share with the world before?
Oh my
before
God, not really. Go do improv.
Go do improv.
No, go take class. Don't do improv. Go take classes.
Yeah. After all that. You're like, yeah, I don't know. Just go put together a team.
Yeah.
Put like 5 names down.
Get your team, commit to your team. Don't be on a million teams. You're going to get better by training with the same people that you trust and love than by doing a bunch of teams that don't matter. Yeah, pick one. Maybe
Great.
2.
Maybe 2. All right, Drew.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.